What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from AlexCFE, and today we have another deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at Premium once again. This is actually one of the most fun decks I've played in a while in this format. We are going to be looking at Gold Paladin. So this deck is extremely fun. I think it's very easy to play in a lot of different senses, but also allows player expression, skill expression to come through at a certain time. It has a very clear winning image. You know what you want to do with the deck and you want to actually perform it. Has the tools and has like the wherewithal to kind of get there also. And in a very specific format, which we'll go over in just a little bit. I think that this actually might be the best deck. Not in regular Premium. I'll talk to you guys about it in just a second, but overall, very, very fun. I would suggest, if you have these cards laying around, piece this together. It's definitely worth playing. So without further ado, let's hop right in. So before I get into the deck profile itself, I have to kind of break here, and I'm going to suggest you don't skip this part just to have. I want to explain something over here and just get into like a little bit of a backstory. So this past weekend was the Legacy Cup, and that was at Nanuet Toy Wiz in Nanuet. Big shout out to Evan for hosting it with Team Legacy. Also, big shout out to Fuzzy for the stream. Amazing production quality. Like, I don't think even the Bushy Road official streams are anywhere close to that kind of quality. So, kudos to you and the team. Really amazing job. Also, my buddy Jake was commentating, and oh my god, I forgot the third guy. He always commentates with Fuzzy. Oh my god, I feel so bad right now. But let me know if you know the name down below. He's an amazing caster. Also, really nice guy in person. Spoke to him as well. I am so sorry I forgot his name. But anyway, basically, this deck, as optimal and in the optimal build in my opinion, doesn't run the OT because you're running Ultima, spoiler alert. And what does that mean for the tournament like Legacy, for the tournament like that's coming up with KSC down in Georgia? Go check it out. It's hosted, I think, by KSC and like Crow. It's kind of like a combo kind of event, cash prizing and stuff. It's a really big tournament. They have like really big stuff. I love their community events. One day maybe, hopefully, I'll get down there for that kind of stuff. But they don't have an OT in theirs, and I think that this deck, when you eliminate the OT from the variance from the equation, actually gets bumped up quite a bit. It becomes like a win con for your opponent, or just like they're one out at a certain time. So without that available to your opponent, this deck actually bumps up, I feel like, at least half a tier, somewhat. This has like one really bad matchup we'll talk about, but other than that, I feel like it is a very strong deck. Has a lot of different options, both defensively, offensively, farms really well, just feels very good overall. So without further ado, let's hop right into the deck profile for real. Alright, kicking us off with the main deck, of course we just saw him, but I'm running 3 of the Sunrise Ray Knight Gurguit, one of the V1 over here. Honestly, we're more concerned with the ride-up. Even if you are going second, you kind of have to go into this guy. I feel like it's just the 2 markers it creates on top of potentially another marker you'll make. The farm from that is just so great. The on-hit is pretty decent. You could just extend a whole lot later on into the game. If you did not close out the way you wanted to, you can go into this. I wouldn't suggest running this first. If you have the option, I'd pretty much always go for that first. Completely up to you though. Do what you need to. I think that having the ability to go into the V1 at some point is pretty good. Obviously, if you're newer to Premium, I just want to explain that this is the one that you have to be riding on in order to flip up and do the pseudo stride, the new strides from History Collection, which we'll go over when we get to the G Zone. So if you are new, don't worry. This is the breakdown. I'll explain that when it comes about. But yeah, this is a split that I like. You can go a 2-2 split, but again, like I said, I just prioritize the G1 just a little bit more, just so you can kind of get into that stride and really gain that advantage to push you into the later game a little bit easier overall. I feel like this deck definitely got better post History Collection, 100%. Unfortunate that these still have not been reprinted. In Premium and in Vther, I think they're banned out. They're banned out period, but in Premium, still legal, still really solid. And honestly, if you want to go into like a V Gurguit turn and just not even stride, at a certain point, you might not even be able to stride. This still feels like a stride turn with this card over here. So Bluish Flame, Liberator Percival. Essentially, you're going to CB, discard a card from your hand. You get an Imaginary Gift Excel, search your deck, or drop for an Aglevel. Call it to Rearguard over there. Super nice just to get that 3 Excel on your first ride up. Your opponent will still be at grade 2. You don't have to commit to all those different circles, but just gaining the advantage of a card draw and an additional circle for your closeout turn next turn is super nice overall. And this is also when placed, so it's not even like an act ability. If you call it off a skill, you can also, do it off your stride. The one that we're going to go over in just a little bit. If the on hit will immediately activate, you'll go, or automatically activate rather, you'll go and search this out, pop it down. It's just, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. Everybody knows Percival's amazing, so kind of need to run in this deck. I wish it was reprinted. I don't know what they're at right now, but last time I checked, they were a little pricey, but the rest of the deck is fairly cheap, I want to say, overall. Next up here too, I'm still running one of the Mock Slash Dragon, very classic from I think it was the very first Gold Paladin set, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong in saying that, but just very easy. When it attacks, CB1, call a card down from your hand to Rearguard Circle. This guy gets 5k until the end of battle. That guy, and I'm sorry, this unit gets 5k, yeah. Just easy. Calls down the Aglavale again, potentially. Calls down other stuff. Gain a buff potentially with Gurguit. Just extends attacks. Could extend into something else as well, so long as you have the CB. Just a very easy card and easy flowing within this deck. At 1-of, if you see it, it's great. If you don't see it, you don't need to necessarily see it to win. So I think it's a good card. I think at a 1-of, it's plenty. If you see it, it's great. But, not necessary to the overall win con over here, which is ultimately Ultima. Moving into the grade 2s now, we are running 4 of one of the most cracked cards to ever be printed again, Fast Spear Knight Tudor. So Tudor is the grade 2 basically searcher. This is the cycler, whatever you want to call it, at the beginning of your ride phase. If your Vanguard is grade 1 or less, discard this card, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 2 card or less from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Just a quick note too, I think people are starting to realize this. This has to be declared before you G-assist. This has to be the same amount, like the same number that you want to declare, have to be declared immediately. You can't just do 1 and then say, okay, then I want to do the second one. You have to say, all right, I'm going to do 2 of these, and then 1 activates, the other activates. Like, that is sometimes a little bit of like a timing chain question I've seen come up a couple times, but just be aware of that. But its first skill over here, Auto 1 Van or Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks while boosted, CB1, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 card with a different card name from this unit from among them, call it to Rearguard Circle. Put the rest on bottom deck in any order. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, choose 2 cards instead of 1. Just insane, like absolutely insane. The amount of attacks you get from this, even if you want to go into that V-Gurguit turn, let's say you have no more G-Zone or whatever, like this still feels like almost like a stride turn, so to speak, when you have all those markers, when you have all that power going live from your V-Gurguit overall. So super crack card, consistency-wise, just the actual effect. This is definitely, I want to say it's probably in the top 3 of the grade 2 kind of cyclers that have been printed, if not honestly the first. Like I think it might be the best. I don't know. It's I guess some food for thought right there. But next up to some Aglavale. We need targets for our Percival. On top of that, generically, if you see this early game, super nice because your opponent doesn't have to be on grade 3 in order to get that extra 10k. So if you're trying to push your opponent, actually get some damage onto them, feels good. You can run this at 2, but like I said, the early game matters to me a little bit in this deck, and I want to put them at a certain point. So having more of these available to me, I feel like is just a little bit better of a build in my opinion. At 2, it's just, I only really search them out, see them once in a while. At 3, I see them a little bit more, and I think that's the sweet spot for me at least, because there are some techs in this deck we're going to get into in just a little bit that not everybody might run, but I find some value in it. Next up here too, we are running 3 of the Wonder Ezel, so a great card that when it's placed on Rearguard Circle, you may call a card from your hand to Rearguard Circle. Just easy, activates effects when placed. On top of that, just effortlessly extending attacks, really beating down your opponent. That's all what Gold Paladin's really about. These have been reprinted. I don't know how expensive they are now, but they shouldn't be too much. Like I said, most of this deck is cheap right now, but again, multi-attack that you get out of that is really, really nice. Doesn't gain power, but it doesn't really have to with the Gurguit skill. Next up here too, just 2 guard, too good to not run, I feel like, in Gold Paladin at least a 1-of. I was running this at 2-of, and it was more consistent at 2-of, but again, this is one of those like cards that'll help you get to the late game and help you get to that ultimate turn overall, but I don't feel that you necessarily 100% need it. This guy is Knight of Excision, how do you say this, Diring? I think Diring or something like that. When this guy's placed on rear, if your Vanguard has only 1 clan, you soul blast 1, discard a card from hand, choose a card with only the same clan as your Vanguard from your drop, put it into your hand. This is good for basically like 2-3 reasons. First off, go search a PG if you feel like you need to extend into the late game like I mentioned. This can definitely help you do that and kind of get rid of some dead cards in your hand. On top of that too, let's say you need a heal guard, same situation, but the third reason really, if you wanted to, you can go and search that other copy of Gurguit because we need to ultimate stride, and for that we need the same copy of our Vanguard's name. So maybe it got damaged, healed out, maybe you needed to discard it for a PG, whatever the case may be. This can help us kind of recur it, and it's hard to get stuff back from our drop otherwise. So this is, it is at a 1-of. You could bump it to 2 if you really want, but right now, like I think at a 1-of it's okay. Test it out for yourself. Let me know what you think. If you want a more include, go ahead, totally do that. Moving next into the grade 1s here, let's get into our consistency pieces. Sunshine Knight Jeffrey. So Jeffrey on place on Vanguard Circle. You look at top 7. You reveal 1 Sunrise Ray Gurguit Knight or Knight of Spring Light Paramore. We don't run Paramore in here, it's okay. Throw among it and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. Top 7 search is just absolutely great. You need to see it, and this also helps you just, like I said, dig a little bit deeper, get that maybe copy that you don't have. Maybe you have the V, maybe you want the V, maybe you want the G1 and vice versa. So this kind of just helps you get whatever you want. But on top of that too, it is a 13k body when placed by a card's abilities. It gets an extra 5k. It's nice too because It also gets an extra 5k shield, by the way, but it's nice because it doesn't have to be called from deck. Some other cards say that it has to be called from deck, which ultimately made me kind of cut them in a sense. This guy is just, it could be called from hand, could be called from deck, whatever an ability made it come down, then it gets that 5k, so it's at least a 13k base, buffed up by potential other numbers too. It just gets a little bit bigger, and in a game of margins like Vanguard, that 5k sometimes really does matter. Next up here, we are getting into our second consistency piece. I'm running 3 of the V. Dawning Knight, Gurguit, basically the top 5 searcher. When placed, look at the top 5, add a grade 3, discard a card from your hand. If you added a grade 3, you can put, I feel like 1 or 2 maybe of the G ones in. It's really up to preference. I feel like I want to see the Percival, so that... in that sense, I really just kind of value just the ability to kind of search anything generically off the top. Also the Heal Guardians. Like I said, we have to get to our second stride essentially in this deck. Sometimes you need to see Heal Guardians early to kind of mitigate some damage if you're getting rushed down, if your opponent can grade 2 game you in a way that you're not expecting or whatever the case may be. I feel like this is a little bit more prevalent, but don't be afraid to use those G1s if that's what you prefer, if you prefer that consistency piece, especially since we're running only 1 of the V Gurguit. Also, during your turn, if you call 2 or more rear guards, that guy gets 5k too, so it becomes a little beater, especially if you call him from top deck. Next up to our countercharge engine over here. We're not running the one that does the from deck. You can if you really wanted to over here, but I'm running something else that might use a little bit more soul, so I'm just being a little bit more conservative, but this is going to be Din Drain. Again, has been out forever for Gold Paladin in the V format, so it's been quite a few years now since this has been out. On rearguard circle, when placed by your card's ability, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, or countercharge 1, and this unit gets an additional 3k until the end of turn. The nice thing too that's kind of underrated about a lot of these is I'm learning that certain decks you want to kind of damage deny them early game. It's always been in the game, but I feel like it's super prevalent now with Grand Blue and stuff running around. You could swing under if they have an AK Vanguard, and you can kind of risk it if you don't want to commit anything else to the board. You could technically still gain that advantage and not hit a trigger. It's really up to you, but just having the option in your deck, I feel like is worth it as well. But this is the countercharger for the deck. Next up over here, this is going to be a proxy. I'll flash it across the screen. This is going to be for Elementaria right here, just one of them in the deck. Next up here, this is also for our Ultima turn. I feel like this will make a little bit more sense once I get to that and actually reveal it and start talking about it. But one of the Knight of Heavenly Roar Reedy. So act on rearguard circle, Soul Blast 2, until the end of turn, increase the trigger effects revealed for your drive check by 5k. Now this is searchable off of Ultima, so that's why I'm running it at a 1 of. At other points in the game, it could be okay, but it's not quite as guaranteed. Soul Blast 2, and you're netting it either an additional 20k or another 15k. So your triggers will either be 40k when you hit the 2 or a 30k depending on if you hit the stand. I'll show you what I mean in just a second, but super plus card, especially in the format with no over triggers. Let's think about this for a second. If you are going into Ultima, if you are calling down 2 units, then rigging 2 triggers on the top of your deck. Let's say you're not under Hanali, that's when you go and rig the stand trigger. If you are under Hanali, it's fine. You just call this down, you're gonna stack 2 crits on top. Swing, 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 do your thing. This increases that extra 5k. You're making sure that your opponent needs either 4 or 5 PGs in hand at once, which is, not unrealistic, but it's not to be expected. It's not very common. On top of that too, you are just pushing super hard. Your comms will be 60, 70k. If they don't have those, your entire board is starting to swing for 3 crits each. It spells game over for your turn. So for your opponent. So this is actually a pretty decent card overall. I really do like this. I was thinking of bumping it to 2. I think at 2 it might be correct, but I just value text a little bit more. And without the overtrigger, like I said, if you're playing in that format, which is coming up for those tournaments I mentioned, that's really good. But if you are playing in a format with the overtriggers like I am right now, obviously I'm just playing regular one. I think 1 of it's fine. 2 of if you're not playing with OT, 1 of if you are. So is searchable, like I said. Next up here too, this might seem like a really odd card. Just hear me out on it. This is going to be either the D1 or the this one right here, Repulse Rod Angel, just because there's a couple G guards that say normal units, but a normal unit, this and that, and I think that this interacts a little bit better, gives you the option to have a PG with a normal unit, return it, do certain things. I'll show you when I get into the G zone. Also on its Vanguard circle, the same reason I said for Din Drain, you could swing under on your opponent and potentially not hit them if you want to counter starve them. And its Vanguard skill, when placed, you draw a card, discard a card from your hand, so it could help you with that other grade 2 that recycles from drop. It could just maybe draw you into that piece that you really need for your next turn overall, kind of a little bit of an extender. I do like this card. I'm going to keep it. Completely up to you. If you want to cut it, like, it's totally fine. Like, the interactions with the G-Zone that it has are not like the most important in the world, but you know, I personally do like it, so that's just going to be my build. Cool, let's tap into the triggers, and then I'll get into the G-Zone. Jumping right in, starting off, I forgot to mention also just the starter over here. I always like Coel. You know, I think if you're playing Gurguit, if you're not playing Coel, you're not doing it right. So definitely start with that, but let's get that out of the way there. Starting us off, we are running just 2 PGs, just because obviously we were running 1 Elementaria and then 1 also of the grade 1 normal PG. I also run the grade 1 PG just because I want to have a ton of crit in my deck over here. So I'm running 9 crit in comparison. You know, you normally never see a gold paladin list run like full crit. I think that you are always kind of tossing in, at least in V, like some fronts. I feel like in premium it's not quite as important to do that. Power will come kind of naturally. I also am running this stand trigger compared to the dog. The dog is really good when you call it from deck, but then it becomes like a dead card if you kind of draw it, and you can't really recycle it so easy unless you go into that certain stride that kind of recycles. But this guy over here, it is GB1. It does have the Unite ability. It gains 3k, and then at the end of battle, this unit attacked or boosted, you put this into your soul, countercharge 1. The countercharge could be big, especially if you're later into the game. You're kind of stuck dead at like 5 damage, and you don't have, like, you know, the kind of any Din Drain kind of combo to countercharge you. This could be a little bit better. It's completely up to you. You can run the dog if you want, but I mentioned the 30k compared to the 40k before. Every other trigger is 10k power. This is a 5k power, so just be aware of that. Also, we are running 4 of the grade 3 Clarity Wing Dragon, so nothing really crazy here. I think most premium decks do that. There's a reason not to run this in the Ezel build, but that's just, you know, not as good as this one over here. So it is what it is. We are not running an OT, remember. So if you're running Ultima, you are not allowed to run an OT. So we are not running that OT, which again makes this better in those kind of formats. Cool. Let's wrap up, and we'll go into the G zone now. Starting us off in the G zone, obviously it's the flipper right here. This is the new one out of History Collection, or rather the errated one. Let me just pick it up to read it for you guys over here. So again, if you're new to premium, let me just stop really quickly and explain. If you ride the G Gurguit, basically you don't get any markers. You can then discard cards with the sum of their grades up to grade 3, or at least grade 3 rather, from your hand. You can discard, and you can stride into this while you are on your first grade 3 turn. This is, you know, just a newer mechanic kind of that's been introduced to the premium format for Vanguard. This unit, when attack hits, will always hit even when it does not, so its second skill, or third skill rather, will activate. And this guy's on-hit ability is when it does hit, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among it, call it to rearguard circle, and it gets 2k until the end of turn. This is just super solid because you are generating, also when you stride this, you get 2 Excel markers, so you get 2 Excel markers, that's 2 draw, you're getting 3 drive tracks, that's at least 3 cards to your hand. On top of it too, you're extending another attack, and a lot of these guys, you know, you extend once, you go into another, they just, you know, it's like consistent extension. So I think this is actually one of the better stride ups personally, in my opinion. Very much my playstyle, like that beatdown kind of, you know, quickly go for him kind of deal. Next up over here too for the G zone, we are running 2 of the Golden Dragon, Brambit Dragon. Very easy card. Don't really go into it too much. You will go onto it on an occasion. When it attacks, you put 2 rear guards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Turn a card from your G zone face up. That's the cost. You draw 2 cards. Call up to 2 cards from your hand to rear guard circle. And if you call 2 cards, this guy gets an extra crit until the end of turn. So it doesn't say normal rear guards back to the bottom of the deck. So if you want to put like crits, or you want to put that stand back in, and if you're you've just like you're unable to go into Ultima, let's say, this is a decent card to keep extending. Completely up to you if you want to do it. This can put heals back in deck, whatever it is, and getting the extra crit is pretty powerful. There's not a lot to gain like an additional crit in Gold Paladin, at least for this build, and Gurguit, as little things of that nature. So yeah, we are going to go next up into another good card to kind of farm and maybe have like a break kind of turn. Master Swordsman of First Light, Gurguit, Helios. So this guy did get reprinted too, which is nice, so it's super cheap. Act on Vanguard Circle once per turn. It does have Unite, so if you've called 2 or more cards during your turn, you get to choose a face down card with the same name as this card from your G zone, turn it face up. This guy gets Drive +1, and the GB3 is really easy now to kind of get on it because of the initial grade 3 ride up over here stride. But this is going to be, this guy gets an extra 5k for each of your rear guards, and your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from their hand to Guardian Circle during the battle this unit attacked. That's really nice too, because a lot of people are running still like grade 1 PGs, like the countercharger ones are starting to become pretty prevalent. Obviously Elementaria gets around this, so ignore the fact that it's a grade 1, doesn't actually get called to the Guardian Circle. But you know, I think it's a decent thing if you want to kind of just farm a little bit. push and see if you can extend into later game, maybe to then pop off your Ultima turn. This is a good card to do it, so you need to include 2 of them in your deck. This one right here, Sunrise Radiant Sword Gurguit. This guy is a GB2, act on Vanguard Circle. It does also have the Unite. You CB1, so blast 2, so it's a little bit costed, but this guy gets 5k for each of your rear guards until the end of turn, and then you choose up to 5 of your rear guards, they get 5k until the end of turn. Just easy. This ends up being flip fodder a lot of the time. Just a simple kind of card to go into if you want to just buff your board. If you want really wide, they're unable to kind of clear you. You know, you could do your thing with that. The Overlord clone now in gold. Golden Knight of Prosperity, Idvarius, something like that. All your rear guards placed by a card ability do get 5k, so it's a little fake kind of Gurguit effect right there. Its second skill, auto on Vanguard Circle. Once per turn when this unit attacks, you CB1, put all of your rested rear guards onto the bottom of your deck in any order. Choose up to 2 cards from your hand, call them to Rear Guard Circle. If you put 4 or more cards into your deck at the end of battle, stand this unit and it gets drive -2 until the end of turn. So again, you are still getting 4 cards kind of out of this. You're spending cards from your hand. I feel like this would be a lot better if they also let you just like drive check first and then call units down, but maybe it'd be a little bit too free in that regard. I don't know. It's not the greatest card, but it's just an option in certain matchups where maybe you're under Honolly or something like that. Like you just can't really do much else. This is, you know, an option for you. Next up here to one of the Golden Dragons, Spear X Dragon. Spear X is kind of fun. It's really fun in the Ezel build, but for this one, we don't really go into it as much. Act in the G zone, just like the other one. This is actually an act. You don't actually have to stride during the stride phase. If you're Vanguard, you have to have Unite, so you have to call 2, you have to have 2 or more cards kind of being called. But if your Vanguard is grade 3, CB2, discard a card from your hand, you can stride this card onto Van from face down. Act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, you Soul Blast 1, turn a card from your G zone face up, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, call 2 cards from among them to Rear Guard Circle, and then shuffle your deck. The only time you'll really go into this, if you really want to, is if you had to ride up onto the V Gurguit. You know, you could potentially, if you have all those counterblasts, like kind of go for this, do that. If you really want to flip and make sure that you have the Ultima live for next turn, in that case, you probably won't have the extra one in hand, but you know, it's just an option for a play, so why not just have one of them in there. Now the main win con of the deck, Ultima over here. I have the ugly Ultima, the reprinted one. This looks like somebody printed it on a printer, honestly, but it's Ultimate Stride, so you need the same copy of your Vanguard from your hand discarded as the cost, not just like the grade 3. You can't just like, you know, grade 3 fodder stride. Also, that you do need 2 cards at least face up in your G zone to stride this over here, so it can't be your first stride. But auto on when this guy's plays on Vanguard Circle, you counterblast 2. You may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for 4 cards, call 2 of them, put 2 of them on top of the deck. So again, if you wanted to, if you're not under Honolly, this is probably what you're gonna do. You're probably gonna swing with most of your board, try to just poke some damage. Okay, great. Then you are able to go and swing with this guy. The entire board gets triggers, the trigger effects from this. So every unit will restand with the stand trigger. Every unit will gain the crit with a crit trigger. If you want to go just double crit, if you're under Honolly, that's fine too, especially if you go and get the Reedy and then you buff your triggers. Like, it just becomes so unguardable, and it becomes like very lethal. Your entire board becomes so lethal. So I definitely suggest this over the over trigger. It's just like, you know, this is the game plan that you're going for. Ultimate is like such a good card overall. So like I said, that's the win cons we should really be going into. This is just the proxy for Messiah right here. I have like 4 Messiahs. They're all just spread out, various different decks and whatnot. Getting into the G guards now, I'm just going to start with this one right here. This is going to be True Liberator of Healing Elise. So she basically CB1, choose a card face down, you know, G guard, flip it, look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, put them to Guardian Circle, end of battle, it gets auto. When this attack does not hit, you may move this unit to Rear Guard Circle, and then put a card from among them onto the bottom of your deck. So this is also kind of why I like that normal unit, just because, you know, it becomes a 7k body instead of like a 5k, 4k, whatever the other one is. It's just a little bit better if it is actually called to the Guardian Circle. On top of that, that other grade 1 PG, it's really for this guy over here. You can net some advantage when this guy's put on Guardian Circle, Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from among them, call them to Guardian Circle, discard the rest. If you called 1 or more grade 1 or greater cards, draw a card. Again, if you're fishing for a PG and you want to actually draw that card, you can go and do that with this. Kind of self-replenishes its own cost for that PG. It's kind of minute. You don't really need to do it, but like I said, I think it's a cute little interaction. Sometimes it comes up. I just personally like it, so I run it in my deck. And then over here we are having 2 of the Golden Beasts, Slimy Flare, and I actually pulled this SP one. I forgot I had that one. Choose one of your rear guards and then put it onto the bottom of your deck. When your unit is placed on Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at 5 cards top of your deck, choose up to 2 cards with different grades from among them, and then call them to Guardian Circle and shuffle your deck. So just very simple, easy. Go search the top. Like, this will really help you extend. This is a great card. Kind of helps you get to that late game. You can really Hail Mary for that PG. But yeah, that is the deck profile itself. Maybe I'll showcase this in like a match video or something like that, just because I do think it is a very good deck overall. Very fun to play, very easy to kind of, once you have the sequencing down right, once you have the game flow right, like, you can play through Hanali in this deck. I think that this has a really bad matchup, obviously, into bugs, but if you can kind of maybe dodge that matchup, I think that you can do fine against pretty much any other deck. Like, it becomes pretty self-sufficient, and I think it's very hard for any deck to kind of survive like a true ultimate turn. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if your build kind of differs a little bit, what you would change, if anything. And thank you guys so much. And if you guys are interested in purchasing any of the cards you see here today, we do have a TCG Player affiliate link down in the description below. Absolutely no cost to you. You can help support the channel. Thank you in advance. I really do appreciate it. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you in advance. This is Alex from AlexCFE signing out.